World War III would not begin the way most people imagine it. There would be no single explosion that changes everything in an instant. No dramatic announcement. No clear starting line. Instead, it would begin quietly, almost invisibly. In fact, when it starts, most people wouldn't even realize it has already begun. History has taught us something uncomfortable about war. The biggest wars are rarely started on purpose. They are born from mistakes, from misunderstandings, from moments where one wrong decision collides with fear, pride, and pressure. And in today's world, a world more connected, more armed, and more fragile than ever, the margin for error is dangerously small. World War III would begin with a trigger event, something that seems minor at first, something that doesn't look like the start of global destruction. A military miscalculation, a radar signal misread in the dark, a commander interpreting data under extreme pressure, a decision made in seconds that cannot be undone. It could be a drone, unmanned, silent, flying through contested airspace. One nation claims it crossed a border. Another insists it didn't. Missiles lock on. The drone is shot down. No casualties. No cities destroyed. But the message is clear. Lines have been crossed. Or perhaps it begins with a missile test. A routine test. The kind that happens dozens of times every year. But this time, something goes wrong. The missile veers off course. Its trajectory looks threatening. Radar systems light up across the region. Early warning alarms are triggered. And suddenly, what was meant to be a test looks exactly like an attack. There is no time for calm discussion. No time for diplomacy. Leaders have minutes, sometimes seconds, to decide how to respond. And when nuclear-capable nations are involved, hesitation can feel just as dangerous as action. Or maybe the first spark comes not from the sky, but from the digital world. A massive cyberattack. Power grids shut down. Air traffic systems fail. Banking networks freeze. Hospitals lose access to data. No bombs. No smoke. Just silence and chaos. Within hours, intelligence agencies trace the attack to a specific country. But cyber warfare is deceptive. Attribution is never certain. Code can be planted. Fingerprints can be forged. And when blame is assigned too quickly to the wrong nation, retaliation follows. This is how wars begin in the modern age. Not with soldiers charging across borders, but with confusion, fear, and assumptions. History is filled with examples of this pattern. World War I did not start because the world wanted a global war. It began with an assassination. A single event that triggered alliances, mobilizations, and ultimatums. Within weeks, the world was burning. World War II followed a similar path. Escalation after escalation. Each side believing it was acting defensively. Each decision justified in the moment. Until the conflict became unstoppable. Today, the world is standing on even thinner ice. Because now, the weapons are faster. The response times are shorter. And the consequences are far greater. Across the globe, tension zones already exist. Places where opposing forces face each other every single day. Eastern Europe, where borders are heavily militarized. Where NATO forces and Russian forces operate in close proximity. One aircraft flying too close. One artillery shell landing in the wrong place. One misunderstanding during a military exercise. The Middle East, a region shaped by decades of conflict. Multiple powers operating in the same airspace. Proxy forces backed by global rivals. Missile strikes answered by missile strikes. Every retaliation raising the risk of a wider war. The South China Sea, one of the most strategically important waterways on Earth. Heavily patrolled. Heavily contested. Naval vessels shadowing each other. Fighter jets intercepting at high speed. A single collision. A single shot fired in panic. And suddenly, regional tensions turn global. The Korean Peninsula, where the war never truly ended. Nuclear threats. Military drills. Constant readiness. One misinterpreted launch. One aggressive response. And escalation becomes inevitable. These are not hypothetical dangers. They are daily realities. And all it takes is one mistake. Once that mistake happens, the situation changes instantly. Blame is assigned. Statements are issued. Ultimatums are delivered. Alliances activate. Defense treaties, signed decades ago, suddenly come into effect. A conflict between two nations becomes a conflict between many. Troops are mobilized. Naval fleets move into position. Airspace is closed. The world watches, but can do nothing to stop the momentum. Because war, once set in motion, has its own logic. Each side believes it must act to show strength, to avoid appearing weak, to deter further aggression. But every move is seen as a threat by the other side. And so the cycle accelerates. Hours turn into days. Days turn into full-scale military operations. And before most civilians understand what is happening, World War III is no longer a possibility. It is a reality, not announced, not declared, but unfolding, quietly, relentlessly, across the globe. And this is only the beginning. Because how the war starts is nothing compared to what comes next. If World War III begins, it will not begin the way most people imagine. There will be no mushroom cloud rising over a city, no shockwave tearing through streets, no screaming headlines at first. In fact, cities will not be the first target. Not New York, not London, not Beijing, not Moscow. The first battlefield will be far above them, above every border, above every nation, above every human being. Space. Because modern war no longer begins with bombs. It begins with blindness. Military experts around the world agree on one thing. The first attacks of a global war would not strike the ground. They would strike the sky. Specifically, communication satellites. Small, silent, orbiting thousands of kilometers above Earth. Most people never think about them. Yet these machines control almost everything. Your phone, your bank, your navigation, your weather forecast, your military defenses. Without satellites, modern civilization doesn't just slow down. It collapses. Right now, more than 7,000 active satellites orbit our planet. Some are civilian. Many are not. They belong to global superpowers. They watch. They listen. They calculate. They guide missiles to their targets. They allow drones to strike with precision. They synchronize entire armies in real time. And in World War III, they would be hunted. Why satellites? Because destroying them does something no bomb ever could. It disables an enemy without firing a single shot on land. No warning. No evacuation. No visible enemy. Just sudden confusion. Sudden chaos. Sudden silence. Satellites control GPS. Without GPS, commercial airplanes lose navigation accuracy. Pilots are forced back to old-school methods. Flights are grounded worldwide. Military jets lose targeting precision. Drones lose their ability to strike. Missiles can no longer guarantee accuracy. A modern army without satellites is an army fighting blind. Satellites control the internet backbone. Global data doesn't just travel through cables. It bounces through space. Disable satellites, and entire regions go offline. No social media. No news updates. No communication between governments. People don't panic immediately. They just notice something feels wrong. Pages don't load. Calls don't connect. Messages don't send. Then they realize it's not a glitch. Satellites control financial systems. Banks rely on precise timing signals from space. Stock markets, ATMs, credit card networks, all synchronized by satellites orbiting Earth. Take those satellites offline, and money stops moving. Cards decline. Markets freeze. Accounts become inaccessible. Not because the money is gone, but because the system that moves it is dead. Satellites even control weather monitoring, storm tracking, hurricane warnings, climate models. Without them, governments lose the ability to predict disasters. Air traffic loses weather guidance. Naval fleets sail blind into storms. Nature becomes another enemy. Now imagine this. Multiple satellites fail at once. Not one, not two, dozens. Across different orbits. Across different nations. At the exact same moment. That is not an accident. That is an attack. In space, there are no explosions you can hear. No sound. Just debris drifting silently. A satellite goes dark. Then another. Then another. From Earth, nothing looks different. Cities still glow. Cars still move. People still sleep. But above them, the nervous system of civilization is being cut. And while the world looks upward, another war begins below. A war with no soldiers. No uniforms. No front lines. Cyber war. At the same moment satellites are targeted, massive cyber attacks are launched. Not random hacks. Not criminals. State-level attacks. Designed for one purpose. Total disruption. Banks are hit first. Servers overload. Transactions fail. Internal systems lock employees out. Money doesn't disappear. but it becomes unreachable. Panic spreads faster than any virus. Then power grids. Control systems malfunction. Automatic safety shutdowns trigger. Entire cities lose electricity. No lights. No elevators. No traffic signals. Hospitals switch to emergency generators. And then, some of those generators fail too. Air traffic control systems are attacked. Radar screens freeze. Data feeds go dark. Controllers lose aircraft tracking. Flights are grounded midair. Emergency landings are ordered worldwide. The sky becomes as dangerous as the battlefield. Hospitals are next. Patient records vanish. Monitoring systems fail. Life support machines depend on networks. Doctors are forced to make decisions without data. Minutes matter. Lives are lost. Not from bombs, but from silence. This is the terrifying truth of modern war. You may never hear the first shot. You may never see the enemy. You may not even realize war has begun until everything you depend on stops working. No explosions. No warning. No countdown. Just systems failing one by one. Phones die. Lights go out. The internet disappears. And suddenly, the world becomes very quiet. Governments scramble. Military leaders race against time. But coordination itself depends on satellites. And those are already gone. Orders are delayed. Commands are misunderstood. Miscalculations happen. And in global war, a single mistake can trigger the unthinkable. This is why World War III would be unlike any war before it. It would begin invisibly, above our heads, inside our machines. Before the first city ever burns, the world would already be broken. And when people finally look up, when they finally realize what's happening, it may already be too late. Because the scariest weapon of modern war is not fire, not nuclear weapons, not armies. It is silence. Just silence.